Alright, guys, welcome to lesson 2 of storyboarding with me, Raj. In this lesson, we're going to talk about how to draw for storyboards or storyboarding. And there is a certain way that you need to know how to draw, a certain mindset that you need to have when you're drawing, and we're going to go over that mindset and go over these techniques in this lesson. So let's get right to it. So here we have, let's say we are gonna do some storyboards for a live action or animated show, right? And we have these 3 characters here. Now, when you're drawing storyboards, you need to be able to draw really fast, and you need to meet deadlines, and you need to, a lot of the times you will need to make a lot of changes because the director doesn't like the sequence and he wants you to reboard it, or for some other reason. So that is why when you're doing storyboards, you're not gonna do your illustrations or your sketches with a lot of detail. So there's a lot of shorthand sketching in storyboarding, and when you're drawing a character, what you try to do is you try to get the least amount of lines to represent that character. And you still need to be able to, if someone sees the sketch, they still need to know which character that sketch is. So I'm gonna do some quick rough sketches of these 3 people here, and I want to show you how I approach it. So for the girl, I'm just gonna draw the same pose, and I'm gonna kind of draw like a kind of stick figure guy, right, to represent her. And then I'm just gonna add the features that I think make her stand out as who she is in that picture, right? I'm just gonna add it here, and that's pretty much it for her. This is how I would draw her in a storyboard. And for this guy over here, when I'm drawing him, I'm gonna draw the same quick sketch stick figure, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add glasses and his kind of bowl cut hairstyle, so you know that this is him. And for the last guy, he's much older, so what I'm gonna do, and he has a hat, so I'm gonna make sure and add these elements, so when I'm doing boards or when somebody watches the boards, they know that this is a shorthand of this character. So in storyboarding, you don't need to draw really fancy. You don't need to draw really detailed stuff. Like when you just start in storyboarding and you get exposed to it, it's a bit hard because you want your boards to look a bit pretty and impressive. But as you get more and more experience, you realize that the illustrations just need to be clear and simple to communicate the story. So let's move on to some more examples now. So let's have this girl right here. Let's say she was the main character in your story, right? Now, when we look at her costume, we're seeing a lot of detail. I know it's an Indian style dress. So when we look at her, I would look at her and try to see what is the important elements of her character and the things that I could leave out that are totally unnecessary in communicating the story and communicating her character. So I made 2 examples here to show you guys how simple it could be. And I did one that I went a bit overboard in the detail, that would show you that it's a bit unnecessary to go this detailed. So that's the one in the middle right there. And the last one to your far right, this is a really rough sketch of how I would draw her in a storyboard. Now, when I am boarding, all I actually need is to know who this character is, and her having the 2 braids in her hair is just enough for me to know and to communicate to my director or my storyboard team that this is the character and that will be her in the scene. So when they look for the character in the scene, they will just look for a girl with 2 braids. And let's say you have 2 characters with braids in the scene. What you would do is that you would just add another element to the quick sketch that would differentiate the characters. So the one in the middle is an example of what you were trying not to do and trying not to go this detail because you will waste a lot of time. So it's not just characters that you need to draw shorthand. and communicate simply. It's also your environments and everything that is in the storyboard. So right now here we have an example of a castle, right? So let's say in your story or in your script there has to be a castle, and this is the design of the castle that maybe the design team passed on to you, and now you have to draw it in your storyboards. Now I did another example here that shows a castle that's a bit too detailed, a bit too complicated for storyboards. It may be good enough for maybe cleanup, but not when you're doing your initial rough. So I'm gonna go super simple, and this is actually how I would do maybe a first pass on a storyboard. Just make it super clear, super simple. All the team needs to know, or the director needs to know, is that this is the castle. This is what's important in the castle and in the area. If it's just an establishing shot, this is pretty much all you need to show. Very, very simple. This images communicates that, hey, this is a castle and it's surrounded by water, and this is where the events of the scene gonna take place. Moving on now, we have another example of some kittens here, and an example again of, even though this is just a quick sketch I made of these kittens, now in the context of storyboarding, this is a bit still too much. Like, yes, I know, like, this quick sketch here I did, like, it is like very few detail. It's still kind of a bit too much detail, and you could simplify it more. And this is how simple you could actually go, like some circles, and you just show the eyes. You don't even have to like draw all the fur and stuff that you're seeing on the cats. Now, unless each cat is a particular character in a film and you need to put like a specific fur pattern on the character to signify which cat is which character, then you probably would draw that in. But if, let's say, it has some random cats, you don't really need to draw that much detail. Alright, the next thing that you need to be aware of when drawing for storyboards is being able to understand gesture, and knowing that gesture is more important than drawing correct anatomy for a character. Now, for those of you who may not know gesture is basically drawing the essence or drawing the action of a character without focusing on individual muscles of like a figure. So in this example where we have here a drawing of the anatomy of a human being, and then we have basically the gesture of the same pose of the same man, right? Now in the anatomy version, we see that it's drawn with all the intricacies of the muscles, and we draw the abs and chest and everything. Now for storyboards, because you're on a deadline and you need to get your ideas across pretty fast, you don't have time to draw every muscle or draw everything anatomically correct. So what you would do is just focus on the gesture of the character, because the gesture would communicate the action of the character and be more clear, and your director or your audience, who's ever watching the storyboards, will be able to understand what you're trying to say, and they don't need the muscles to be there for the idea to come across. So let's say, for example, this drawing, right? It's a pretty good drawing. It has all the muscles. It's well proportioned and everything, and the character is stretching out. We have the idea of what the character is doing. Yes. But with storyboards, now this drawing is well refined, and with storyboards, you don't have time to draw everything so well refined, so everything so accurate on maybe a first pass or a second pass. And with gesture drawing, it's usually really, really quick, really, really loose. You focus on the action. You don't focus on everything being anatomically correct. So like in this drawing, you could see that everything is much more loose, and it still communicates the same thing that the character is doing in the previous drawing. Now let's look at this example. Now, another thing that you need to know about anatomy is that sometimes when you draw things really accurate to life, it tends to come out really stiff and a bit lifeless when recreated in the drawing. Now, when you're doing a gesture adds more life, and you see a lot more life in the drawing as compared to the one that has more accurate to life, because the gesture is usually pushed, it's usually exaggerated, so you're able to push the idea even more and to cheat a little bit in terms of realism and still communicate your idea to the director. So now I wanted to show you guys an example of some storyboards done by a Pixar storyboard artist. I couldn't find his credit, so if you know who it is, I would love to know his name, because I really love these boards. These are some storyboards from the movie Coco, and if you look at them, you could see how loose and how gestural these drawings are. They don't try to be super accurate to life, because if you've seen this movie, that you know that these characters, they're mainly bones and skeletal bones, but this artist, he doesn't draw every bone in the ribs, he doesn't draw every bone in the hands, everything doesn't have to be accurate. He just adds enough that this character is a skeleton, and you don't really need to add every single detail. So these are really nice boards. These boards are actually on YouTube. You can actually just type in Coco storyboards deleted scenes, and you will get to see these boards in action. They're really good. You should check them out. Now, the last thing that we're gonna look at with understanding drawings for storyboards is having a clear silhouette with your drawings. Now, many of you have come across this, and we're just gonna go over it again. But let's look at a quick example, and we'll just go over it really fast again. So we have two drawings of the same woman, and she's holding a spear. Now, the one on the right is the better way of drawing her, because if we black these drawings out, you will still be able to know and to see what the woman is doing clearly. Now, with the drawing on the right, when we black it out, we kind of get confused as to what is really happening. We don't really know where the placement of the spear is. We can't really tell what's really going on for sure. But compared to the one with the right, we could clearly see that she's holding the spear to the left, arm stretched out, and we know what's going on. So with silhouette, we try to keep this silhouette really clear. Here are some more examples. We could tell what these characters are clearly doing. The girl is holding her hair, holding a sword up, holding a gun. We know what these characters are doing. So with storyboards, we try to keep everything clear. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna show you guys an exercise that you're gonna do for your assignment, which will help you to build or to get in the habit of drawing for storyboards. It's actually an assignment that I see, when I was now learning storyboards, that I saw that a lot of storyboard artists did, maybe as like a warm-up exercise, or like an exercise they used to study film. And this exercise, which will help you to build or to get in the habit of drawing for storyboards. It's actually an assignment that I see, when I was now learning storyboards, that I saw that a lot of storyboard artists did, maybe as like a warm-up exercise, or like an exercise they used to study film. And this exercise, I realized, actually helps you to draw in shorthand. So what the exercise actually is you would take a movie or TV show or any kind of visual medium, or any show or anything, and you would take a scene, and then as the scene plays out, you would try and draw the scenes as they play out without pausing the movie or the TV show. So this would force you to draw the most important elements as fast as possible. So in this example I have on screen here, I actually decided to do The Incredibles, where the family was sitting at the table. And basically what I'm doing here is I drew out some boxes for the scenes. I drew these out before I started, so I won't be wasting time drawing the boxes while the scene is going on. And then I played the scene, and I would try to draw the scene as fast as possible, capturing the most important elements, the composition, which characters were on the scene, the character placement, and everything like that. And it will force you to see what is important and to forget the detail, to forget all the fancy shading, to forget, things that don't really add to the story or are just like background elements that not important at the time. And so this is gonna be one of your assignments. What I want you to do is to find a scene in maybe a favorite movie or a favorite TV show, a favorite animated show, and take a scene, draw out the storyboard boxes, play the scene, and then while the scene is going on, draw try and draw the scene as fast as possible, even if it's just really rough, even if only you can understand your sketches. That's okay. The point is that you trying to get the mindset of drawing in a shorthand for storyboard. So there's another assignment which is similar to this one, but a bit more relaxed, right? So what you would do is take the same scene, or you could take another scene, but what I want you to do is pause the first frame of every scene and then take some time and draw the important elements in the scene, and then play the scene. Then at the ending of that scene, pause it and draw the ending of that scene. So this will show you, is actually more of a scene study kind of exercise. But what I want to show you is that when you have more time to draw a scene, you would see that, compare it to the previous assignment and see how much detail you added while you had more time, and the amount of detail you had when you didn't have more time, and compare the elements that you added in or the elements that you didn't add in, compared to the first assignment, and see what you drew in that was more important, what wasn't important, compared to your first pass, right? So guys, make sure and do this assignment because it will really help you with your speed in your sketching. It will help you in having the right mindset for storyboarding, and to help you to see beyond the detail, but to see what's important to the story and what you need to focus on. So I hope you do it, and I hope you come back for the next class. So, because I can't wait to show you guys what we have in store. So I hope you enjoyed this class, and see you in the next one.